Spoon feeding in the long run teaches us nothing but the shape of the spoon. E.M. Forster. Recruitamentary. Empowering your employment. With our guest today, Kaylee Houde. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the next episode of the Recruitamentary podcast. We're going to be talking today about networking as a hot topic. With us today is Kaylee Houde. Kaylee, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself, Michael?
You know what? We're having a bad passing storm here, but you know what? I'm glad to be able to do this episode, have a great guest on. Happy to have you here. So that's my highlight for the day right now.
Wonderful. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, ma'am. So with our listeners that may not be familiar with your work and whatnot, just give us an intro, what you're about and where you found yourself to be in the career coaching platform now.
For sure. So I actually sit in Calgary, Canada, and I've been an independent career coach for about 8 months now. I ended up in the field kind of by accident because I was a corporate human resources professional for about 5 years prior. And in that space, I was doing a lot of what I call the dirty work of HR. So managing workplace complaints, understanding reductions and planning people numbers, and really managing a lot of layoffs and severance packages. And it was a really negative environment to be in. So what ended up happening was I woke up one day and said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to use my skill set to help people. And I saw there was a gap with a lot of the people that were losing their jobs in that they didn't have the skill set necessarily to market themselves as a candidate in the job search. They maybe hadn't written a resume for 10 or 15 years. They didn't realize that networking was the number one way to find a job in today's marketplace. So I launched KH Career Coaching.
Awesome. And you know, it's funny talking about having people that are not in the realm of having to do a resume. There was a friend of mine's sister, their company, they just gave a whole bunch of raises. They raised the minimum wage. It did all these wonderful things. And also on the flip turn of things, they laid a bunch of people off because those raises have to come from somewhere. And unfortunately, they lost their job. They have had a consistent job at least for the past decade. So that's the only type of work that they know. That is it's exactly the situation you're talking about. They don't know how to network. They haven't had to.
Exactly.
They haven't had to update their resume. And now they're like, it's almost like being in the dating world again. It's like, all right, what do I do? This is so foreign and different. And networking, I mean, it's really changed what the job front or applying for a job used to be. Before you see a job you like, you go in, you make your, intro, and then you just sort of go from there. And if they hire you, hire you. They don't, they don't. There's so many other granular details, that come into finding a job and essentially what networking is. Is that something that you're finding a lot of your candidates are struggling with as well?
Definitely. I see a lot of people that come to me and say, well, I am networking. What am I doing wrong? And one look at some of the messages they're sending on LinkedIn or the emails they're sending to corporate folks. And I realize either A, they're not targeting the decision makers, or B, they're basically coming from a place of scarcity, that place of desperation, which people can smell that on a person. And that doesn't really help put their best foot forward and talk about how they can add value when they're desperately really sending messages to everyone saying, I need a job, I need a job, I need a job. That's not really the intent of networking.
Right. And it doesn't feel good either. I mean, when people feel that desperation, it's stinky. It's really,
Stinky's the word.
It's just like, don't do that, and the thing is,
it's like the car salesman, like you get the car salesman, then that he's being slimy and then he's trying to make a deal with you. And that stereotypical car salesman is what you become when you're selling yourself in that way.
If you think about it, and this is essentially when you go to network, but we're all pitching ourselves.
Yeah.
So if you come in like a pop-up ad and you're like, please hire me, try me, do that. People, no, punch in the nose, like stop, go away. They shut down because you are so just in their face. And
exactly.
So coming back to your career branding and strategies, what's your personal touch? What's your difference in how you approach things, compared to other hiring or placement resources that you've seen and dealt with in the past?
Yeah, so I noticed that a lot of placement resources, and I know I'm not speaking for everyone when I say this, is that a lot of them are very very high level programs. Some of them are subsidized by the government, and a lot of resources that are available to job seekers are about the basics. I take things from the basics and I help motivated professionals, usually mid-career professionals and leaders, really amplify their careers. So it's taking things from good to great is the way I like to see it. So you might have a good resume, sure, but is it targeted to the employer of your choice? Is it targeted in the sense that it's showcasing your results in a relatable and transferable way with the skill sets that you've acquired over your lifetime? And are you marketing that in a way that's going to grab the attention of the reader? So that's an example with resumes. And what I do is I combine this tactic, these job search tactics, with a selling yourself attitude, but in a way that is positive, because you need to have the right mindset to back it up. So I just finished completing a life coaching certification so that I can more effectively combine that mindset piece to the job search process. So it's not just about getting a job. It's about finding work-life alignment, really still paying your bills while being happy, right? So you don't have to wake up every Monday morning dreading to go to work. You can wake up excited and motivated, and all of those values words that I often spend time deciphering with my clients.
I do find that a lot of people who seek out resume writers thinking that they're going to have and very similar to recruiters, you're going to find me a job. And that's just not how it works. But with the resume experience, and this is something that I think this is also a misconception with. I know some people that are resume writers are going to get upset for me saying this, but hear me out, and this is why. I don't think that there is as much value in resume writing for an individual than there is for career coaching for an individual. Anybody can write a resume specific to one job experience. Not everybody can coach themselves or get coaching rather for their specific niche of experience and industry requirements. And that may differ. So if you get one resume that's written, for a specific project manager job or HR job, that is paper specific. You need to know how to adapt that ability and that strategy from one to the other. When you're employing a resume writer, that comes at an additional cost. And that's the value really that I have been, trying to employ with individuals that are, have been listening to the podcast and tuning in and asking questions is give a man a fish. Okay, he's good. He's not hungry for that moment, that meal. He'll come back and he'll want another fish. But if you teach the man how to fish, he'll then provide for himself, for others around him, and then spread that wealth of knowledge and experience and teach others organically. From that fallout of his network, you can build, and then he is known as, I guess in that experience would be the industry expert, knowing how to fish. From there, can take those actionable skills and apply them in their relationships, their personal relationships, or other aspects of their life that aren't just career or even resume specific. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. It's funny that you use that metaphor, because I use that to describe my coaching practice quite regularly, actually. Because like you said, somebody might give you a resume, they can write it for you, great, but does that teach you how to then go and target a different type of posting later on in your lifetime? Probably not. And so my whole coaching philosophy is that I'm teaching people the skills that they need to find a job for the rest of their life. So no matter what situation they find themselves in, maybe they end up in a career that is no longer aligned with their values. Maybe they get laid off in the next downturn. They still have that skill set. Sure, they can always come back and I can support them through that process again. But really, by working with me once, they should have the skill set and the tools in their toolbox to start to apply accomplishment statement writing, networking capabilities, and goal setting, and cover letter writing and interview prep for the future.
Have your own recruiter or candidate story that you'd like to share with us? If you're listening on YouTube, comment below. Otherwise, feel free to email your experience to ask@recruitamentary.com. You can find our full conversation of this episode on YouTube at youtube.com/recruitamentary. Thanks for checking out this episode, and feel free to like, subscribe, and share the content. A Mike Tech Studios production.